Hello and welcome to Stitched from my stash. My name is Julie and I'm coming to you from just north of Glasgow in the UK. You're very welcome. Thank you for your company, your subscriptions, your comments. It's good to have your company. My vlog is about sewing, knitting, patchwork and quilting, and possibly weaving. And the aim of my vlog was to get me motivated to use up my stash, hence Stitched from my stash. Having said that, I do buy stuff occasionally. Anyway, let's crack on with today's episode, which I think is episode 45. I think I started in about November. Anyway, I digress already. So I'm going to talk about what I'm wearing, works in progress, the weaving workshop I went to over the weekend, which was fabulous, some little purchases I made in the charity shops, and just some general flim-flam. So what am I wearing? Excuse me. This is the second one I've made of this version of this Burda top, Burda pattern. I have made lots of other t-shirt versions, which are I think version A. I'm not sure. Anyway, this is version C, which has the roll top neck, which I thought would be a good autumn-winter garment. I managed to eke out enough stretch fabric. I think this could be used as cuffing, but it's really suitable for this shape top. Now, somebody mentioned they tried this pattern and it wasn't very successful, and they thought it could be because the fabric didn't have two-way stretch. I'm no expert, but the fabric I use is sort of quite stretchy, so not sure if that was the cause. So obviously raglan sleeves, which was a crossword question in the Guardian crossword fairly recently, and I managed to get that right. I don't get them all right. And if I stand up, I've got it tucked in because I like tucked in. I've tried to keep it out a bit at the back. Not sure if that's very successful, but it's got plenty of, if I move this back a bit, plenty of length if you wanted it tucked out, kept out as well. So it's a really comfy pattern. It is quite shaped in the middle. What I did with the sleeves and the hem, I did a overlock stitch on my normal sewing machine. I did the inside using my overlocker, but for the cuffs and the hem, I used quite a dense zigzag stitch on my ordinary sewing machine because I didn't have enough fabric. So I didn't want to sort of turn up a hem and use up fabric unnecessarily. So I did the overlock on my domestic machine and the inside using my overlocker. I'm going to put a photograph either side of the threads I changed into my overlocker. I do have a drawer full in this little cupboard of overlock threads. I didn't quite have enough of all pink, so I think it's like a beige colour I put in there. But the pinks that I used, I've bought them from charity shops over the years. When I see them, I buy them. And the pinks that I used were they were fraying, and it was quite difficult to feed them through the needle and the loopers and the needles on the overlocker. So I remembered, and I did get it out and I put it on the table amongst lots of other stuff. I remembered that I had a tool that I can't remember where I bought this, but it's an extra long thread device for helping you thread overlockers. So I don't know if that's going to help, but you can see it's got the thread eye on the top. No, that's not working, is it? The thread eye on the top, and obviously it gives you much more length to get into the needles. And then there's this device, which is for, again, not sure if you'll be able to see that there's a little hook on the end. Really not sure if that's going to focus. There's a little hook on the end here, and this helps you thread the loopers. And these little tools were really useful for the thread, this pink thread I was using, which was really fraying. And I was getting a bit frustrated, thinking, am I going to get this thread? Am I just going to go back to white? But I remembered these and they did work. So generally I can thread the overlocker without using those, but that particular thread was fraying. And I think on my first attempt, I didn't really get the overlock stitch. So I think I unthreaded the first looper and started again, and then it was fine. So I'm pleased with this. I've just put it on today. I haven't worn it over last week. I think I made it on Tuesday or Wednesday, can't remember. But it's really comfy, but today's the first day I've worn it. And the jeans are just ready to wear jeans that a friend gave me years ago, hand-me-downs. These glasses are looking as if they've got a tint in them. They haven't. We are back to the more gloomy days now, aren't we? It is quite overcast up here. So, excuse me, and I can't see without them. They're very focal, so I'm going to have to more or less keep them on. So that's what I'm wearing. In terms of other makes, they have been a little bit thin on the ground, but I have made some progress. So let's start with the quilt backing. I finished the backing, the flimsy, the front. I'm not thinking, am I? And I decided on this fabric for the back. So I had two pieces of this. So I have gone as far as joining. They weren't wide enough. So I have gone as far as joining the two pieces. But that's it. I was away for the weekend attending this weaving course, and I took this with me. It wasn't a residential course. We were staying fairly nearish. I took this with me thinking I'll do it in the evenings, but the weaving course was so full on. I didn't do much craft in the evening, and I definitely didn't do this. So I have the wadding, I have the backing, hopefully I'll get onto this week. There's no rush. It's for a wedding gift for next year, so there's no rush with that. So I think that's that on the quilt. I'm also working on, and I did do a little bit on this, from this book, a wall, it's only little, 20 by 20 wall hanging. And I did do some work on this, which I've done, I think there's 5 rows and I've done 4, but I've not sewn them together. So I have used a friction pen and just marked in the corner. That's going to be row 1. And I'm not going to bring them out in order. I'll just bring them out whatever I've done. That's another row. That's another row. And then these are the startings of the 4th row. Now, I've not really done a plique, excuse me, and obviously these are appliqued on. So I started off, how was I doing it? I traced the heart, which you're given the stencil in the book. I traced the heart and then cut out a little card copy. And I think what I was doing was just cutting around the heart very roughly. And I don't know, it wasn't working what I was doing. So of course, I then went back to the instructions, and the instructions say to, here, let's get an example I haven't sewn on, to trace around the heart on the right side, and I've again used a friction pen to go around the heart like so. And then you pin the heart to the backing square, and then you sew around by using the friction pen. They didn't say friction pen because it's an old book. I can't remember what they said, pencil perhaps. You sew around where your heart outline is. And I'm really pleased with how that's worked out. Like I said, I've not done much applique, and I wanted to do something that was smaller rather than, you know, I'm doing a quite biggish quilt. So I enjoyed that. Now I have been using, again, I took that away with us over the weekend. I have been using this little basket to keep, I put in the threads that I was going to use to sew on the hearts, and some of them are little ends of reels that will be useful, a mauve one, and then that's going to create a bit of space in my thread supply. But what also I've been saving, I mentioned quite a few weeks ago now about taking the thread out of your machine through the bottom rather than the top, because I'd seen that somewhere on YouTube. So you get quite a long piece of wasted thread if you cut it from the bottom. So I've been saving that as well and putting it in my thread box. And so I've been using those bits because I have been working on, anyway, I've got little bits of pink and white that I've been able to use. So I have to do some more. Did I have the squares already cut out? I can't remember. I've got a pile of squares anyway. But I have to do another row. Then I've got the sashing. And then there's more appliqued hearts as a border. So I think that's going to be really pretty. So that's a work in progress that I've done a little bit on. The other work in progress that, again, I've done a few rows on is my entrelac knitting. Excuse me while I have a sip of tea. And I'll just get this out. Now, I'm very lucky. Andrew will drive me. I can't drive, but Andrew will drive me. And I can knit in the car as I'm driving. I know lots of people do. So I was able to drive. The course was in near Dumfries. I'll tell you more about the course later. And so I could knit. It's a good 2 hours from us. I could knit whilst Andrew was driving. So I finished off the mauve row, and I've started, I finished the cream row as well. And then I've started this rust colour. And because I'm on the middle of a row, I'm using a circular needle. It's a blanket, so it isn't circular. But circular needle obviously gives you more length to play with. I think this is a 100cm circular needle, which is possibly a bit too long. Anyway, that's coming on quite nicely, and I think it's only acrylic from my stash, but I think it's going to be very it's got a really nice feel to it. It's going to be a nice blanket, but again, there's no rush, there's no baby in mind. It's a baby blanket. It's just using up my acrylic yarns, which I possibly don't have enough to make a little kiddie's garment. Whatever, that's what I'm doing, and I am quite enjoying it. I did say previous that this entrelac isn't as difficult as I thought, but there is enough interest there to keep you going, and there's not many stitches involved. There's picking up stitches, slip, slip, knit, knit two together, knit and purl. I think that's it. So there's not loads of stitches, but it is really effective, and it does make for a nice squishy blanket. So the pattern, I think, was a free download off Ravelry. Can't remember. Yeah, I think it was a free one. So that's the pattern. I did think when I'd done a few rows, the colour's a bit garish, but I think it's going to work. It's going to be fine. So I've worked on that, and it is quite wide, so the rows do take quite a while. Not the rows, they're more than, yeah, whatever. So I worked on that, and I think that's my works in progress. So I'm going to have a little chat now about my charity shop purchases, and these were in a shop in Newton Stewart in Dumfries and Galloway, and there's a community shop and a dogs charity. So I'm going to come back to see the link in a moment with why I bought these things. So first of all, I bought this absolutely beautiful Shetland Wool Week book, and they charged me 50p, and on the back it's actually £25, and this was Shetland Wool Week 2024. And I've never been to Shetland, and I've not been to Shetland Wool Week, but when we were away up in just south of Durnest, right at the top, northwest Scotland, a couple of weeks ago, the woman who owned the Airbnb was a crafter, and there were some things in the cottage she'd obviously made. So we were chatting just before we left, and I could have chatted to her for ages. And it so happened that Shetland Wool Week was on the same week. So she said something about Shetland Wool Week. And apparently every year there's a hat pattern and those people that go try and make up the Fair Isle hat to take to wear to the Shetland Wool Week. Now, I don't like flying. So from us, we'd have to get the ferry from Aberdeen, and it's like 11, 12 hours. Anyway, I'm not saying I'd never go, but it sounds very interesting. And funnily enough, one of the women on the weaving course over the weekend, she'd been to Shetland this year, not for the Wool Week, although she is a knitter. And she said she caught the ferry from Aberdeen and they drop off at Kirkwall in Orkney, then on to Lerwick in Shetland. And she said the crossing was perfect. You go overnight, and she said she thinks she woke up just as she came out of Kirkwall on Orkney. So I may go. It sounds really lovely. Anyway, back to the book. So I bought this book, and I have done a bit of colour work. I don't think anything as nice as these. But there are really some lovely patterns in here. These beautiful socks. And if I can put my hand on them, there's some lovely mittens. Or there's another nice hat, which has a sheep's motif on it. Now, Andrew collects animal skulls. Sounds a bit gruesome, but that's his interest. He's interested in nature and all that stuff. And I may make that one for him because it's got sheep skulls on there. But the mittens I'm interested in, and am I going to find them? I should have marked out the mittens. Anyway, there are lovely mittens in here, which here they are, I may attempt. And they are knit in the round. I really don't like sewing up knitting. Knit in the round. And as far as I understand, they use 4-ply yarn. Now I've got 4-ply sock yarn in my stash, so I wouldn't go out and buy more yarn. And I do actually have a purple and a blue, and I think that looks lovely together. So I may attempt those. Again, it wouldn't be a quick project, but it would be something to enjoy. And again, the rest of the book has things on the Shetland shawls, has lovely photographs of Shetland jumpers from the past. And it also has an article on gansies. So, and Andrew spotted this. He often spots the good things in the charity shops, which I miss. And I'm so glad I bought that. I loved looking through that. I haven't read all the articles yet. And it's that really nice, non-shiny paper. So that was a real treat. So that's one thing I bought. The other two things I bought were things I actually went in looking for. And they were these. And I went in the charity shop looking for a tapestry frame. I think it's tapestry. Anyway, I'll come back to that in a moment. And I spotted this one first, which has clips on it, which are quite firm. So you put I didn't even know what this stuff is called. You put your tapestry cloth, I don't know what it's called, and then you clip it on. And I was thinking, I look out for one of those big wooden ones that you can roll things around, roll your fabric around. But I think this will be good because it's much smaller. So 50p, I think. And I did look online then, because I think there's bits missing, and this can turn into, I think, so you can put a stand on it and sit it on your lap, I think. So it's called R&R Craft Frames. So I bought that one, 50p. And then these two are, Andrew spotted these, wooden ones that you interlock and it makes a square, I don't know, 12 inches, something like that. I don't know, 10 inches, probably says on it. Anyway, and then you take your fabric, I will learn the name, and then you can tack your fabric to the wood. So I'm going to try this one first. And why I wanted them was because last week I did show this project that again I had bought in a charity shop and I wasn't sure what it was. So somebody said it was a tapestry, so I opened it up and I really like it. Obviously I would have seen the picture in the charity shop, but I had to look at it. I thought, I like that. Now it's one of those ones that somebody has started and they've started there, but all the instructions are in there. I'm not sure if all the wool is in there because I don't know how much wool these things take, but I had to rummage through the wool and sorted those out. But I really like pink and green, so I wanted the frame to use with that. So that was a success. I'm really glad we popped into that shop. I think that was on the Friday, and then the course was on the Saturday and Sunday. So I'm going to talk about the course now, and I will put some pictures up here. So it was a 2-day non-residential weaving course in a place called Shamblie House near New Abbey in Dumfries and Galloway. And I put some pictures up of the house. Really interesting. I think it was about 1850s house. And so you're there all day, 10 till 4, and they give you plenty of tea and then a lovely soup and sandwich. No, it's not sandwich, soup and bread and cheese lunch. It was really nice. And they sort of looked after you and really welcoming. And on the Saturday, the guy who had links to the house came and gave us a talk. He was sort of fairly elderly. And that was really nice. So you had a bit of the history of the house. And one of the other attendees of the course had actually been to Shamblie House, she said, perhaps in about 1999, when it was a costume exhibition. So, you know, that was a nice sort of, we were talking about that over lunch. So the course was run by Jan Beadle. She has an Instagram and a website, and it was absolutely perfect in terms of weaving and the setup. It was wonderful. I think there were 5 of us doing the course, and 3 other people took their own looms, and myself and another attendee were using Jan's looms. And the first day was all about dressing the loom, and she was a fantastic teacher, really brilliant. And then the second day you were ready then to work on a project. Now I was keen to make a scarf. I've got the pink and blue coat I showed last week. I thought, right, I'll make a pink and blue scarf to go with that. And obviously to do a scarf you need to get motoring, and I'm a learner on the loom. I went because I was given a loom and I want to learn how to weave. Anyway, here's what I made. So she had some like fancy yarns to put in. This is all wool and it needs washing and drying so it softens up. But I'm not like really happy with the colour choices I made. But she showed us something later on where you can use like a piece of a birthday card cut up and put your the yarns you're thinking about on the card and see how they work together. So it's fine. And this is mainly, there's some twill on there, and then the rest is plain or tabby. And she was teaching us how to throw the shuttle, what happens if there's a problem. So that's quite good for a day, I think, but not quite big enough for a full scarf. Excuse me. Having said that, I thought I could just wear it like that, couldn't I? And with a, I don't know, make a little claspy thing or something to go around there to feed it through. And obviously, when I got to this side, I was rushing, so I didn't put any fancy yarns on here. And as I said, it does need washing. But I cannot recommend Jan and the course enough. It was really fantastic. She was patient. She was so knowledgeable. And it was nice to have company. It was nice to go on the workshop. And I am going on another workshop with Jan that I'd booked before this one, same place, in November sometime, on making a tartan scarf. But that's one day, and she'll have everything set up, and she said she really pushes you to get weaving. So that's what I did at this weekend, and it was really super duper. I've taken loads of videos of Jan explaining things, but so much to learn. I thought it was fascinating, and it was tiring. I was really exhausted by end of yesterday. So that's what I did over the weekend, which I really enjoyed. Lucky me, I was very lucky to go. And I'm just going to talk about plans for the coming week. So I'm going to have a rummage today in the box of extra gadgets that came with my loom. I'm going to take off the piece of fabric that I was weaving on. Jan was saying, just keep doing samples so you get used to dressing the loom. And as we were driving home, I thought, yes, that's what I'm going to do. Just make samples, take notes. I took loads of notes with what Jan was telling us. I'm just looking over at my loom now. So that's my first plan, and depends how well that goes. Obviously, when there was a mistake over the weekend, Jan was there to sort you out. So I'm going to work on the loom, do some more hand stitching on the little wall hanging, my entrelac knitting, and I may get around to doing the quilt backing, but I got plenty to get on with. But I'm at home this week, not gallivanting away for the weekend. So I'm really looking forward to doing my crafts. So inspirational over the weekend. So I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching and for your company. I do hope you're enjoying your crafts, and let me know what you're up to, where you are, and hopefully see you next Monday. Best wishes. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.